becomes very important because our circadian biology, especially when our hormones are changing and our estrogen is going off a cliff in perimenopause and menopause, is that our circadian biology becomes very important. And when we're under artificial lights all the time, this is going to wreak havoc with the proper programming between our brain, of course, and our hormone systems in terms of that information coming into the eyes, the brain, and the rest of our endocrine system. There's also something called leptin resistance, and this is really important that we're fixing that leptin resistance, as that's correlated again to something called pregnenolone steal. If you've seen some of my videos about that, you can check it out. So look up leptin resistance on my content, pregnenolone steal, and I do have a number of curated content just for women for perimenopause and menopause. And I will have some courses coming up on that as well. So make sure you go to my website, drjaninebowring.com, and make sure that you're registered there so that whenever we're launching new things, that this is something that you'll be privy to, all of that information for courses and more information. Okay, so this is really quickly what happens with our downstream hormones. So you can see testosterone, estrogen, and stress. So with cortisol, with leptin resistance, this is called pregnenolone steal syndrome, where that pregnenolone is preferentially going towards our cortisol, our stress hormone production that messes up your hormones, further exacerbates that leptin resistance and insulin resistance as well. So yeah, I've got a lot of content, so make sure you check it out. That's a great question. Thank you so much. And it's great to have you all here today. Okay, so which parasite, JJ is asking, which parasite cleansing herbal medicines do I use? If we can pull up Cabo really quickly, I'm going to show you. This is my favorite combination. So I take this, it's all in one capsule. And here we go. Cloves, artemisia, black walnuts, and oregano, the whole plant of oregano, which is so powerful. So, you know, it's something that I just do every time I eat sushi. If I eat, I had sushi pizza the other day. Oh my goodness, it was so delicious. I never thought anything was possible. It was so good. If anybody's had sushi pizza before, put a pizza in the comment section. It was so, so good. But again, I don't want to have that fear in the back of my mind that I'm going to get sick with parasites or whatever. And the same with oysters. So I just take that Cabo right after eating whatever it is that might be questionable. And that goes for barbecue, whatever else that I'm having. That, or sometimes even eating a salad, you can pick up parasites. So it's just something that I do. So that's really important. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. It's great to have you here. I'm Dr. Janine, and today is our live Q&A, which we do, of course, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's okay, the oregano is actually part of the formulation. All right, so that is, yeah, it's already freeze dried and in that capsule and in that formulation, which is fantastic. Now, yesterday we also talked about how we quit sugar. So if you have a sugar addiction problem, maybe we'll just revisit, because I know that you've asked about some of the symptoms of sugar addiction really quickly. Let's revisit what we talked about yesterday. So intense cravings for sugar. So is this you? Maybe, you know, you're hiding or your little stash of sugar in different places of your home, in your office, in your desk. And are you lying about how much you're actually eating of that sugar? You don't want to admit it. That could be a symptom of that addiction, as well as feeling tired or bloated, especially after eating. Because remember, with our microbiome, when it's unhealthy and we have too much of that Candida or some of the intestinal parasites and worms that actually make you crave the sugar, then they're actually happy. There's the way that I like to sort of say this is that they're having a party in there in your gut after you feed them all that sugar. And this is where they're giving off gases and toxins and things. And this can be part of the reason why you have a lot of gas and bloating, especially right after you eat. Changes in mood as well, and there's some research behind this, that psychological changes in terms of sugar addiction, those correlations, and having withdrawal symptoms. So if you're trying to get off, well, let's say, okay, I'm done with the sugar, I'm getting off. Well, yeah, if you start to have the headaches and the lethargy, and you know, you don't have that get up and you become very irritable when you're getting off of that sugar, again, a sign that maybe you were addicted to begin with. DL Petway, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Thank you for tuning in. Zagabo, love this question. What about sugar and fruit? Yeah, you can become addicted to that as well. So too much fruit is going to be, we had a business meeting years ago with a man, and he said, yeah, I'm addicted to fruit. All I eat is fruit. And I'm thinking to myself, being a naturopath, you know, have studied all of this, and in terms of sugar addiction, I'm thinking to myself, well, may not always be the healthiest thing if you're overdoing it. Now, a couple pieces of fruit in a day, probably healthy, especially if you're under natural sunlight. So the UV light of the sun is going to help you to metabolize those fruits. If it's in the middle of a cold winter, there's no sunlight UV that's strong enough to help with that metabolism, maybe it's not a good idea in terms of, being able to metabolize all of that sugar from the fruit. And again, if you've got a Candida issue, some very, very strict Candida diets, they don't even allow for fruit or honey or anything that's sweet in the beginning stages as you're killing off that Candida. Now, I tended always with my patients to be a little bit more lenient with the diet. If you're eating a healthy whole food based diet, local, seasonally, then that's usually okay to have, a little bit here and there. But those herbal medicines are what do the job to be able to kill off those less favorable organisms in the gut, that Candida. Okay, so great questions coming in. Thank you for tuning in today. It's great to have you all here. And okay, this is something, cholesterol lowering foods, like a girl 13. It's something that we've talked about in previous episodes, like way back. I'm going to say at least six to 8 months ago, maybe. So you can look it up on my content. Some of my favorites, of course, olive oil is great. Garlic is also great. And there's some literature behind the fact that garlic can help to lower your cholesterol levels. But do you always want to lower your cholesterol? So did you know that some of the more recent research has shown that higher cholesterol after the age, and I'm going to say, this wasn't specifically in the study, but I'm going to say, based on what I've experienced in my practice, is after the age of 50, 55, a little bit higher cholesterol is actually correlated now with longevity. And there's a reason for that. Can we go back to pregnenolone steal really quickly? If you're just tuning in, we talked about cortisol and stress levels and weight gain and leptin resistance, but look what happens with cholesterol. Now, what would naturally happen if, let's say, you have a thyroid issue? So you've got low thyroid. Often we see in our low thyroid, hypothyroid patients that cholesterol is a little bit higher when you have your blood work done. Well, why would that be? If your thyroid is struggling, what is the body is always trying to self-regulate. That's why we have all these feedback mechanisms, these feedback loops back up to the brain, our master controller. So imagine that we're low here because we have leptin resistance. So often it's not even a thyroid problem, it's a leptin problem. We've got this going on here. We have an increase in reverse T3, which shuts down this conversion, T4 to T3. What's the body going to do? The body's crying downstream for more thyroid. It maybe needs some more estrogen, some more testosterone. We get stressed out. We've got pregnenolone steal. All of that pregnenolone from cholesterol is going over here to making more cortisol. We're getting more belly fat. We can't lose the weight. We're stressed out all the time. Our sleep patterns are erratic. We don't wake up rested and feel ready to go. This is a big problem. This is why the body is actually raising that cholesterol. So how do we know what is best in terms of cholesterol? Well, finding that balance. I'm all about balancing cholesterol. Yes, you can use herbal medicines and things in your diet. Of course, fiber, increasing your fiber. There's a lot of research that shows that we're fiber deficient. So increasing your fiber intake, especially for women, is really important for balancing the hormones as well. But yeah, is your high cholesterol actually a real problem? Okay, thank you for tuning in today. Rosalind has a great question. How do I feel about GLP-1 agonists? Yes, those injectables, those big weight loss drugs that are out there that are actually designed for diabetes. But at the same time, yeah, my personal opinion is that I've looked at some of the unfortunate consequences of being on some of these injectables, and they're not my favorite. I'm just going to say that. That's my honest opinion. I don't think they're safe. There's FDA major warning in terms of developing thyroid, serious thyroid disease from being on these. They can slow down your digestion a lot. I've actually spoken to people taking them. It made them so sick that there are definitely more beneficial natural ways to also help as GLP-1 agonists. And these are some of the things like stabilizing blood glucose levels. I actually do have my favorite combination of herbal medicines that are able to do that. And that's something that I would much rather prefer to use something, herbal medicines directly from Mother Nature to help to balance blood glucose and to get that weight off, and also address the underlying issue. So is, your high blood sugar because of your environment? Okay, we have it. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So this is my combination that I recommend and use personally to balance blood sugar levels: muscat and grape skin, African wild mango seed, Gymnema sylvester, and white mulberry. So that combination together, it's in a capsule. It is amazing and can have really dramatic, weight loss effects if this is in fact why you need to lose weight. Some people, I'm going to say, not most, but a lot of people need to lose weight because their blood glucose levels are not stabilized. So taking the herbal medicines is one thing, but I was also going to talk about, a little bit about your environment and how much natural full spectrum light are you actually getting? A lot of people do not. So a lot of people work and live indoors. You're not getting outside. Again, that's going to send the wrong signals to your brain, through your eyes, to your skin as well, in terms of your circadian clock mechanism, something that I talk a lot about in my new book that's being launched early next year. I'm super excited. So again, make sure you're going to my website so that you are in the loop with all things Dr. Janine. Here we go. You can also send an email, but just go to drjaninebowring.com. You can send an email as well and say, hey, I want to join up. I want to be on that mailing list when, all of these new things around the corner are going to be launching in terms of, yes, natural health, circadian biology, and getting into, doing some fun things. Okay, a question about magnesium stearate. I'm going to answer that in just a second. Okay, yes, thank you. Is there magnesium stearate in a low dosage bad for human consumption? Now, it's not sticky. So in order to get those raw materials, the vitamins, minerals, herbals into the capsule, they're using ingredients and these flow agents, and this is why you really have to check your vitamin labels. We have a vitamin label here for you really quickly. And when you look at the non-medicinal ingredients panel, it will label out some of these things. Magnesium stearate is a big one, and it's never been tested for long-term human consumption, even in small amounts. And yes, they use a little bit. Okay, here we go. On your labels, this is what you're looking for. Non-medicinal ingredients. Do you see how it says that? So I really want you to start checking your vitamin labels at home. If you definitely, if you can't read them, because often they're very small, just get a magnifying glass, whatever you need to do to be able to read these. Really, you shouldn't see too much happening here, non-medicinal ingredients. If there are a lot of chemical names, like here, cross-carmellose sodium, microcrystalline cellulose, cross-providone, hypromellose, magnesium stearate, this is the one we're talking about right here, silicon dioxide, polysorbate. I mean, this is a really bad one, just as an example, as a synthetic multivitamin. But that magnesium stearate, even in your most natural supplements that you even are prescribed to you by your practitioner, most times it's going to have magnesium stearate, and it may even say vegetable stearic acid, vegetable magnesium stearate. It's a chemical, okay? It's not magnesium that you take as a supplement. It's a chemical, magnesium stearate, and it's a flow agent. So it helps for things to flow more quickly on machinery. It helps with the encapsulation process. And it's never been tested to be safe for long-term human consumption. And if you look at the material data safety sheet for this stuff, I ideally should be wearing gloves, just handling it, and wearing a mask. And so, yeah, it's kind of scary to think that it's in most of the supplements that are out there. So, yeah, it's something that you definitely want to be aware of. Thank you for tuning in today. Hey, for those of you who were here yesterday, I'm very curious. Please put a 1 in the comments. And I do want to review something that we did yesterday. We did a quick fill in the blank. So we're going to go over to the board over here, and you're going to help me to fill in the blank. So put a 1 in the comments if you were here yesterday. And if there's new people here, then that's something that's great as well, because you don't know the answers already. All right, where's all my 1s? Nobody was here yet. Philip, I know you were here yesterday. You know the answers, but we're going to go through the fill in the blanks again anyway. Okay, so we're talking here about fake light. All right, so something that we talked about a little bit a few moments ago. And it's something, okay, here's a lot of questions coming in about strokes today. So maybe we can incorporate that into our show on Tuesday. Some preventative things for strokes, and maybe post-stroke, what we need to do in terms of, some natural ways of approaching that preventatively. So that let's take a note of that, because I see a lot of people are actually asking about that today. So we'll do that. Okay. All right. So yes. Okay. A few of you were here yesterday. Nobody wants to admit it. Oh, maybe that's why. See, I'm getting smarter now. You don't want to admit that you were here yesterday because you want to get the answers correct. All right. Are we ready? Let's go. Let's talk about fake light. How this is related, and this is why I'm teaching it, is because it's very much related to what's going on with your physiology, with your blood glucose levels, the fact that maybe you can't get that weight off. Maybe it's your metabolism. Maybe it's your digestion. Maybe it's leaky gut syndrome. There's so many different implications of having too much exposure to fake light and not enough of the balancing rays of things like UV and red lights. And this is why red lights therapy is all the rage right now, because it's very balancing to your mitochondrial health. Okay, I don't want to give too much away before we get to the fill in the blanks. All right, here we go. When we have our lights on past sunset, it ruins our blank secretion for good sleep. So implications for sleep, I didn't really focus on that yesterday. But what is happening? Sugra Abbas, you've got it. Yes. All right. Who else? Hello, Lillian. Nice to have you here in Nigeria. Thank you for tuning in today. It's great to have you all here. All right. Yes. All right. We've got it. Okay. Yes, we have it. Okay, of course. Melatonin. So it ruins, of course, our hormone of darkness. Some people call it the sleep hormone, but it's not necessarily that. It's the hormone of darkness. All right. So our melatonin secretion is good for sleep, of course. Now, and that's what fake light, so a lot of artificial light and not getting outside into full spectrum light from outdoors, is going to have an effect potentially if we have our lights on past dark. Okay. So artificial light is not what kind of light? I've already said it. What type of light is it? Riza, hello. Thank you for tuning in. It's great to have you here. Samantha and Pickering, thank you for tuning in. Hello. The Catholic girl who sings. All right. Yes, try to ask questions. As long as it's a generalized question, I'll take it. If it's something that I can help to benefit a big, group of people. But of course, if it's as a direct medical question, I cannot do that. So the answer is, it depends. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. All right. Does anybody know the next one? No? All right. So artificial light is not, Philip, where's the answer? Come on, I can always count on you. Okay, it is not full spectrum light, okay? So that, like the sun, it is higher in, now what have I talked about before? And if you're new here, maybe you know some of this information. If not, this is great to be able to help. Junior League, yes, red light is definitely beneficial for the skin, absolutely. Junior League 734, you sleep with a red light. Yeah, so after the sun has set, having more red lights on, if you need to have lights on, should be on. However, when you're actually sleeping, it should be pitch black. There shouldn't be any lights whatsoever, because that will mess up with your melatonin and your other hormone secretion as well, like leptin and things. So I would recommend no red lights, no lights on whatsoever after the sun has set. When you're actually sleeping, I should say, not after the sun has set. All right. Thank you, Mona in Copenhagen. Nice to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, did anybody get the next one? Blue, yes, it's higher in the blue wavelength. And do we know how many nanometers that is? We talked about this yesterday. It's in the, does anybody have it? Yes, Philip. Okay, good. You've got it. What number am I looking for here? Usually around 450, 480 nanometers. So I actually have a great podcast that you can listen to. You can also watch. Philip, you got it. Of course. Tisha, you got it. Kate, yes. Okay, that's a great answer as well, 460. So with Dr. Moore-Eid, and he wrote a book all about our light toxicity and what's going on in terms of our health. And it's really interesting, some of the studies that he actually references in his book. So please make sure you check out my podcast with Dr. Moore-Eid, all about fake light and blue light toxicity and why it's so important that we mitigate our risks against it. All right. Okay. So this blank light tells our body it is what time. When we have too much of this frequency of light, of course, blue light. Yes, Philip, you've got it. This blue light tells our body that it is what time? Of course, 12 p.m. So 12 noon o'clock. So that's the problem with being under artificial lights all the time. It's always telling our body that it's 12 noon, 12 noon, 12 noon. Imagine what that does to your body clocks. Even your microbiome and your gut bacteria and the good guys, the probiotics, are on a light cycle. So if we're always giving our eyes, our skin, and our microbiome the wrong signaling, this can often cause a lot of gut issues and gas and bloating and weight gain and all these things. So often not talked about. I do talk about it in my new book coming out, so that's really important. Okay, ALAN, what does that stand for? Okay, I know somebody who was here yesterday. You've got this because not all of you got it. Yesterday, Cap will fill steam sauna over red light. I prefer infrared sauna and red light. Steam would be a secondary if you can control the environment, because often in steam rooms, depends on the water that's being used. It can be high in chlorine, as well as there could be mold problems with steam rooms. So if you have control over that environment, then I would be okay with steam with some eucalyptus added in there, which is great. Okay, we got it. ALAN stands for artificial light at night. Philip got it, has it. All right. So artificial light at night. And I encourage you, if you like to do research, just look up ALAN on PubMed and start to look at some of the research, because it is linked. So having artificial light at night is linked to blank C. I can't say that. Yes, exactly, Philip. So problems with breast health. So I'm not going to say what that is. I think you all know what that is. Yeah, so that's a big thing. And like I said yesterday, if you can just share one thing, if you're new here, please put a 1 in the comments. It's so great to have you here. Thank you for sharing today's live as well. And for all of my new followers, please make sure you hit that follow button and subscribe. I'd love to have you here again when we do this on Tuesday, because of course on Tuesdays is the Doctor Janine Show, and it's something that we talked about yesterday, all of these comments and the topics that we talked about yesterday. But yeah, if you do nothing else, and this is something new that you've learned, Joanne, thank you for tuning in for the first time. Terrio, thanks for tuning in for the first time. Welcome on in. I am Dr. Janine, and I talk all things natural, of course, here on the show and with our Q&As. And this is a regular thing. So every Tuesday, we have the Dr. Janine Show. It's at a different time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, on Wednesdays is the follow-up. And of course, we go through different questions and health topics every single week. And today is our Q&A. Now, I know some questions came in about how do we quit that sugar. Let's go through those tips. And then I do want to touch on oysters really quickly again, all of the great attributes of oysters, because I know some questions came in yesterday about the oysters, and we talked about that. And Hyatt, thank you for the follow. I wasn't able to answer that. Okay, so how do we quit that sugar? Number one, get it out of your house. So if it's not around, then you're less tempted to be putting it in your mouth. Okay, so try to get it out of your house. Replace your habits. So this is something where I talk about, maybe when you're craving something sweet, and you will often when you're first getting off of that sugar, if you're craving something sweet, you can replace that with, maybe a stevia or monk fruit, or something more natural, of course, like a soda is one of my hacks, is just having a soda that's sweetened, not with, the fake aspartame and all that stuff, but it's actually sweetened with stevia, which is natural, or chewing some xylitol. So again, a natural gum can be really satisfying in the moment when you're craving something sweet. You feel like you absolutely have to have it. So replacing those habits. Exercise is a great replacement as well for those bad habits of sitting around and, when you're antsy, you feel like you need something sweet. Maybe you're just bored. Maybe you should just get outside and go for a little walk. Okay, so that it really is, it seems easy to say, but at the same time, if you start to implement some of these things, really remarkable for your health. Fix your leptin resistance, something that we talked about earlier, of course, balancing your hormones and killing that Candida and parasites. So remember the Cabo that I talked about. If you're just tuning in now, there are certain herbal medicines that you can take in combination, really great at killing off those less favorable organisms, those, parasites and Candida in the gut, which often are making you crave all of that sugar to begin with, because they survive, they live off of that sugar. So that's important. Putting the good guys back in, of course, for your healthy microbiome, your probiotics. Magnesium bisglycinate actually cuts your cravings for sugar. It's like a miracle thing. And remember, make sure that it doesn't have magnesium stearate. So we're going to go over here. If you're just tuning in again, we're talking about magnesium stearate. Most supplements, most magnesiums even out there as a supplement can contain magnesium stearate. So please read your labels. And it's that magnesium stearate, which is a flow agent that is very toxic, in my opinion. It's never been tested to be safe for long-term human consumption, so you might want to think about, finding a magnesium bisglycinate, my favorite type and the best absorption type of magnesium to help to curb those sugar cravings and get more sleep. Because what happens when you're tired, if you're not getting, and you're not on good sleep hygiene, you don't have, a great sleep, what happens is that you are tired, so you might crave some sugar to give you that little bit of hit of energy, which is, of course, never long-standing. You get that hit, and then your blood sugar is going to drop down again, and then you crave more sugar. So it's this vicious cycle. Okay, Philip is asking, what about honey? So in terms of quitting sugar, yeah, a little bit of honey I'm okay with, as long as it's unpasteurized, it's in glass, and it's local to you. A little bit is not the worst thing when we're talking about your gut microbiome. It's like a natural antibiotic, so it's actually okay. But if you have a really, really bad Candida issue, then maybe it's not the best thing, and not to have too much of it. So maybe like a half a teaspoon a day at the beginning would probably be enough. Some people who love honey, they kind of overdo it with the honey, and that can be too high, of course, in that fructose, and it's going to spike your blood glucose levels. It is related to fatty liver as well when your fructose is too high. So it all depends, but a little bit of honey I'm actually okay with. Philip, you said, okay, a little bit and unpasteurized. Yeah, that's my go-to protocol personally. I like it in my morning drink, just a little bit of my hot tea, I should say, not a drink. I don't wake up with a drink. Well, that kind of drink anyways. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you for sharing today's live. And Candida fixes. Yes, so all of those protocols that I just talked about were applicable for Candida. We have talked specifically about Candida in the show as well, but these would be applicable. I do have other videos on Candida DIAI, so please make sure you check it out. ASP Archer, honey is risky. If you love it too much, it might be risky. Of course, it's not recommended for babies. So usually age 2 and below. I know some people say age 1 and below, babies shouldn't have honey, but age 2 and below, I would say, would be because of botulism, of course. But I don't know if that's ever happened. I've never seen a case of it personally, but I don't know. I'm sure it does. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in today. And date syrup, Rosalind, yes, that might be okay, date syrup, but again, there will be some fructose in there. So a lot, not too much. So we're limiting things. If you're addicted to sugar, then we're limiting that sweet taste. And you may be, like I said, magnesium deficient. You may have the bad organisms in the gut, and that could be a big problem. Whitehill 1, you're saying we have never known about magnesium stearate being bad. I know, but so many thanks. Yeah, well, this is why I've talked about it for years. If you've seen me on television before, I talk a lot about magnesium stearate because most of the supplements that are out there, unfortunately, contain this toxic ingredient. Most practitioners know nothing about magnesium stearate, and it's something that, as much as some websites, if you search it up, they're going to say, oh yeah, it's naturally occurring, it's not bad for you. Well, I disagree. And that a lot of people with magnesium stearate in their supplements, they don't realize that magnesium stearate. So if you, and again, just do this one thing for me today is after today's live, you're all going to go and check your supplements that you may be taking and look for magnesium stearate. And then you make that decision for yourself and for your own home and your loved ones if you still want to be ingesting it. Because for a lot of people, it can cause heart palpitations, acid reflux, just a sort of upset stomach from taking this. And it's amazing how many people I've educated over the years, especially when I'm on television and then I get the feedback a couple months later and saying, Dr. Bowring, I got rid of all of my supplements with magnesium stearate, and sure enough, my acid reflux disappeared. And I always kind of felt a little bit off when I took my supplements. I didn't know why. I feel so much better now that I've gotten rid of all that magnesium stearate from my system. So yeah, it's something that you definitely want to make sure. Whitehill, you threw away all your vitamins and supplements with that poison. Exactly. And it's not always out there and sort of publicize the fact that most of the industry in terms of supplements is using some of the stuff that they have added into their supplements. All right, thank you so much for everybody who tuned in today. It was so great to have you all here. What a great live and a Q&A. Keep your questions. I'm so sorry if I wasn't able to get your questions in today, but please make sure that you're jotting them down, and make sure to ask me next time. You can put it in the comment sections of whatever platform that you're watching on today, and I'm sure either myself or, of course, my team, my great team, Team Dr. Janine behind the scenes, will help to answer your questions. And reach out. I mean, go to my website, drjanine.com. Reach out, and you can reach our team there as well, which is amazing. It was so great to have you here. Thank you. I see those comments coming in about politics in the U.S., and I think it's very funny. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. It was great to have you here. Remember to tune in on Tuesday again for the Doctor Janine Show. I will see you all there. We are going to have some quiz questions happening. Of course, you can win a prize. I'll be announcing this week's winner in next week's show. So if you're new here, make sure you do tune in on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a whole new show, all new topics. We'll see you all there. Have a great day.